Welcome to the conference room. You have your password. At the sound, please record your name followed by the pound key.
I'm a PALTIEL.
Thank you. Your next participant number 1.
Okay. We're on page test, 5 lines from the top. The line begins with RASHAB de-zun, which means zun, zeer amp in sechel en keva, middes. Betten de ema. Behoek inyan. All right, but the Rebbe is explaining now. We're talking about ilu, the cause and effect. And the Rebbe is explaining that this phenomenon of ilu, of ishtalshelus, can occur in two different ways. One is that the olul and the ilo are two very distinct, very different aspects, except that the ilo, for some reason, contains within itself the olul, and then eventually the olul comes forth begili. And it develops internally and so forth. Then there is another process, so to speak, of ilu, where the ilo and the olo are very, very similar, except that this is the ilo and this is the olo. They're in different levels, but they're very similar. They're the same mahus. And this is what we're discussing right now. At this moment we're discussing the first variation. But the ilu and the olo are two very different, but the olul is contained within the ilu. The mashal for that is sechel and midis. And the Rebbe is explaining, sechel and midis are very, very separate, very different, but you have to understand that the midis are contained within the sechel before they even develop as midis. This is what we're discussing here. Vehu ki inyan, excuse me, and this is as the principle. He spoilers ahava v'yiro. The spoilers, the arousal, the being affected with ahava v'yiro. A spoil ahava v'yiro. Shekedem shebo begila belev. That this ahava v'yiro, and even the spoilers of ahava v'yiro, that before it even came into the heart and to be fully functional, beginning revealed in the heart, they were, the ahava v'yiro were earlier included within the hisbonus, within the period of the reflection, of the development of the sechel. We shall discuss this. I think this is very important. Which means that the ahava v'yiro were in that state during the development of the sechel. Development of the sechel in this case means hisbonus. It's not the discovery of the sechel, but development and bringing it forth, hisbonus, revealing what's in the sechel. They were b'mitzius mamash. They were present there in their real mitzius, as such, as ahava v'yiro, k'mei shehein ahakach b'lev, as they are later on in the heart. Ukenira b'chush, as we can actually see b'chush in our personal experience and observation. That in fact there is the element of hispoilus, of being affected. Hispoilus meaning being affected, meaning actively touched of Ava v'yira b'mayach in the brain. We already discussed the very general principle: brain and heart are very, very different by nature. Nonetheless, within the brain, there is a hispoilus of Ava v'yira. The brain, as we said, I think yesterday, receives even the sechel in a pure form, meaning it does not limit the sechel to what the brain can tolerate. It takes the sechel as it is, in its purity. The brain itself is not affected by the sechel, it's not dependent on experiencing the sechel in order to understand it. He understands it the way it is. That's why we say that it's like an ear, like sight. Sight is like observing something, not being part of it. That's why the brain takes the sechel as its pure state. And then there is a hispoilus Ava v'yira b'mayach. Within the mayach there is a hispoilus of Ava v'yira. A couple more lines and then we'll stop. Surely, hey, b'bchinas dakus yeser, the Ava v'yira in the brain are b'bchinas dakus yeser, are in a state or in an element. I explained one time, b'bchinas means that their tendency, not only what they state, but their tendency is towards dakus, towards refinement. Mikmei shehem b'lev, then from the way it is in the heart. If you follow through on this concept, the b'bchinas, it would mean that even though there is Ava v'yira, but there is not a tendency to grasp it and to experience it. It's a tendency to appreciate it. Appreciate its grandeur and its greatness rather than to have a personal experience. That's been b'bchinas. Dakos Yeser, they're much more refined. It's not trying to to bring it down to his level. He is trying to get to it at its level.
What time is the face today? What time is the face?
One second, you know. Because Dakos Yeser. The Knesset Beloved doing there in the heart. In the heart seeks to absorb it. So it should be personally affected, and therefore the midas become more coarse, so to speak, to be able to relate to the physical heart. But by shaking the brain, it is the midas as they are in Dakos. And yet still we say that these midas are in the heart as the olul, as the effect of the way it is in the brain. But the brain is a completely different state. So we say rak except shehein al kol ponim b'bchinas mitzias midas. Al kol ponim means it's inescapable to recognize. Either way, alcohol means whichever way you look at it, it's inescapable that there is a hispoilus of Ava v'yira. There's an effect of Ava v'yira in the mayach. Although it's in a different level and different refinement, it's not the same Ava v'yira, midas Ava v'yira, the way it is in the same. Right. We don't have much time. Let me just put this a little bit in perspective. Why do we say that it's inevitable that there is Ahava V'yira in the Moyach, in his Hisbonenus, even though the Moyach has no tendency towards his Hisbonenus. The heart, it tends towards that. But the Moyach is fakir. The Moyach is looking to the finest aspect of its comprehension. What was that?
That's one if you want to stay on.
No, I didn't hear. Okay, forget it. The Meir does not have that tendency. So why is there Avayim for Avayira in the Mayach? And here is a very important principle we discuss. This principle from the different angles. The Hisbonenus is a Hisbonenus Eliki. It's a Hisbonenus in Elokus. Elokus is all-encompassing. Elokus is that reality, that truth, that nothing is outside of it. Although it's not defined by all these things that it contains, that it represents at all. This is the mashal that we have. That if you have a house, the house already contains furniture. Particularly when you have the phenomenon of hisbonenus, meaning that the house is now owned by a person. Then you already have beginning to identify what this house is about.
Right, the empty house that contains furniture is a mashal for the way that
Midas are contained in sechel. Midas are contained in the hisbonenus of the sechel. Okay, I know what your perplexity is. Let me explain to you. You have to remember all the time, when we say the word sechel, we do not mean sechel the way the secular word refers to sechel. Not at all in that realm. We were, so to speak, drained of our sechel by impoverishing our sechel, reconnecting, impoverishing our sechel to be a function, a tool for discovery, for identification.
Right, so for real sechel, the qualities of...
I'll give you a very simple example, so we'll have to focus on. How do you go from here to 770? There is the blind man's way of describing it, and there is the bar sechel, the seeing, the alert person's way of describing it, of relating to it. I'm sorry, I'm saying blind. I don't mean to insult anybody. I'm talking about beruchnis. The blind man, beruchnis, means somebody who sees only that which hits him hard on the head. Doesn't have an overview of a reality. This is the way the world, the secular world, sees everything. Prove it. Unless you prove it, unless you hit me on the head, I don't see anything. This is the blind man's with sechel. We are capable of seeing and relating to things from the level of the nefesh. The nefesh does not discover anything. The nefesh knows of the divine truth, permeating everything and containing everything. As Mitzvah is saying, a house contains everything that eventually can complement it. Everything. All the human wealth, I don't mean monetary wealth, is already represented there. Because the initial concept of the house, is something which is contained, which is an emanation of the nefesh itself. Where does the nefesh come to a house? The answer is, nefesh is not necessarily in a house, but the nefesh recognizes it has a mission in the world. Whatever it is there for real. If it's there for real, it has to, in our world, in the physical world, it has to have a definitive place where it can function. And this definitive place contains inherently all the qualities that the nefesh will possibly use to accomplish its task. This is for me. This is why we say, the minute you have a house, everything that the house will eventually bring forth is already contained within the house. Everything that you will fill the house with in order to accommodate your wish of the house is already there. In a much more dakistic, much more refined manner. A chair does not have any physical design, any physical presence. A chair has a ruchnistic phenomenon, value. And so does a table, so does everything else. Much more dakistic level. But nonetheless, it is nevertheless contained therein. This is in the midas in the sechel. But since we're talking about sechel as bonus, sechel aleki, the sechel aleki is not a sechel stripped of its truth. On the contrary, it's a sechel that delves into the truth and tries to reveal what's in it. Right, and the very beginning, the very phenomenon that is misboinen, the reason it's misboinen is because you realize that this is Holocaust. There's something to misboinen. Not for the purpose of building my fortune, but it's for the purpose of me recognizing what I have, what's being given to me. Within that is bonus, there is Abba V'yira. Because Holocaust is superior to the world, to the human being. And therefore, when you think of Holocaust, immediately you have the name from Abba and Yira. Except that this Abba V'yira, as it is in the Sechel, is in a completely different reality. It's the same thing, it's midas, but it's in a different level completely, much more refined. It's not seeking to be for personal. It's not seeking personal experience. It's seeking to recognize its truth. on the sechel level. But these midas that are contained in the sechel, this is the source of the midas, the way ultimately they are reflected. All right, this is it for this morning. Okay.